Simply It's Logical here, and welcome back to the channel. Either way, thank you all for joining me for today's video of Steelwater Park Zoo. If you are new to the channel, then you might not recognize this zoo, but this is our new zoo that we have started for a multitude of reasons, but we are currently working on the gift shop for this zoo. If you are unaware, the video style for this zoo is a bit more laid back and relaxed, and we don't do an entire build at once. We kind of just see what we can get done in the week. And we have been building in this zoo for 3 weeks now. I think this is technically the third episode, but still part of episode 2. If you haven't checked, go see the first part of this build where we did this whole plaza area sort of thing. But in this episode, we're going to actually get to putting in some animals, and I'm very excited for y'all to see the end result of this build because I am very happy and very proud of myself with how they turned out. I am trying to not go ultra realistic in this zoo, but more realism than I have in the past. In the past, I've kind of skipped by and just kind of ignored some things that didn't necessarily make sense. And in this zoo, I don't want to ignore those things. I want to make sure that everything is placed for a reason. Everything is connected to something that's going to give it support. It's not just going to be, oh, it's just magically hanging there. I want this zoo to be very highly detailed, and because of that, we are doing a more relaxed video style where we just kind of see what we can get done in the time that we have to build during the week that we are building in this zoo. But back to the build. I struggled so hard, and I feel like I say that almost every single video, but with this building in particular, I have some sort of reference that I'm working off of, and with this build, I had absolutely no reference. It was literally just kind of throw things at the wall and see what sticks. It was so hard for me to build like that because I've never built like that before, where I just kind of come up with ideas and hope that it works, and if not, you just tear it down and start all over. I am someone who I like to have an idea. I like to have it planned out as to what I'm going to put where, what pieces I'm going to use. I like that sort of meticulousness, and the fact that I had literally no plan for this build drove me absolutely crazy. And because of that, I do admit I did kind of, I won't say I put off building in this zoo, but I did purposefully resist building the gift shop because I had no idea what I wanted to do for it. Originally it was going to be like the stained wood pieces, and then I tried corrugated wood, and then I tried making my own corrugated wood, and I really liked that. For the walls, all I used was the metal beams that we got in the Australian pack and the mud wall that we got. Was that a base game update? I don't know. For those of you who know me, you know that I'm terrible at knowing what pieces we got when. I just kind of assume when we got them, depending on what tags they have, but I think it was base game. I don't know. But anyways, you saw me a minute ago. We were working on the gift shop viewing window into the backstage for this exhibit. And for those of you who don't know, again, go watch the first part of this episode because that will explain a lot of this build. But these two exhibits that we have in the front, right as you enter the zoo, are supposed to be like a rotational habitat. So the animals can be rotated into one or the other depending on the day, and to give them a bit more enrichment and stuff like that. I will say, per Planet Zoo's requirements, these exhibits are definitely too small. But because this zoo is based in a city and it is supposed to be a bit more urban, industrial esque, I figured going a little bit smaller in size requirements and having less animals in them would be a better call for this zoo. So a lot of the habitats that you see probably will be just on the verge of making them happy due to Planet Zoo's size requirements. But as we all know, Planet Zoo has outrageous size requirements, and even with PZ Plus, some of the size requirements are still a little crazy. And also, if you don't know, I think I spoiled it in the last episode, but if I didn't, you're about to find out now. We are building for the Pallas cat and the Japanese raccoon dog, or the tanuki, however you want to pronounce that. But those are the animals that are going to be right in the front as you walk through the entrance gate. And I figured those two were for the animal roster that I have, those made the most sense because they were big enough to be seen, but they were also small enough that they could theoretically fit into these exhibits. And for the tanuki, we do end up putting two in there, and they definitely don't have enough space, again, per Planet Zoo's requirements. But with this being a smaller urban zoo, it might be a little it might be kind of okay. I was going to have all the size requirements and all the terrain needs on, but when I realized that these were probably 50 meters too small for them, I'm like, no, we're gonna turn all that off and completely ignore it. So in this zoo, we don't have any. I think the only no, we don't have animal welfare on. We do have guest needs on because I do want to be realistic in toilets and all that sort of stuff for the guests, but for the animals, I want to be more realistic in the aspect of this is a city zoo, so things are going to be a little bit smaller. And I know I've said that a million times in this episode, but I just want to really get that through. But moving on to the builds, we are working on I won't say the backstage, but the habitat detailing, or adding in all the enrichment and stuff like that for the Pallas cat. And for the Pallas cat and tanuki, we basically just copy and paste what we do for the Pallas cat over to the tanuki. But obviously, because the tanuki do have a climbing requirement in Planet Zoo, then I do add a bit more climbing into their habitat than I do in this habitat. But we also kind of ignore it a little bit. So here you can see I'm just working on a water feature, or not a water feature, but their water requirement for both habitats. And again, we just copy and paste that over to the other side. And I was trying to figure out what to do to make this exhibit look interesting. And I figured putting their food platform raised up would be the perfect way to do that. So we do have a raised platform for their food trough, or food tray, I guess you could say. But we also add in a small climbing structure for them to just kind of perch on and just kind of hang out a little bit and get off the ground a little bit, because they are cats, and as we all know, cats love to climb and go crazy and everything. So moving over to the tanuki exhibit, you can see we copied and pasted the exact same structures that we had for the Pallas cat. I quickly tried to see about rotating the climbing structure that we're currently watching me mess with a little bit, but quickly realized that I didn't want to struggle with that and fiddle with it, so I just kind of left it how it was. But I do also use the big center post of this exhibit as a jungle gym for the animals. and I really love how this turned out. I probably should, well, no, because we actually fixed that. Never mind. I was gonna say something, but we get it fixed. But all you can see is just adding little, basically they can climb all the way up the pole. I didn't want to add anything above this top one because I didn't want them to like potentially climb onto the mesh and like be hanging upside down on the mesh or anything. So we do just kind of leave it at this height, and I think that's a decent height for them to not be able to reach the mesh at all. And you can see here just checking in, they can use everything, which is great. And I also wanted to add in a tree, and I was like, how can I add in a climbable tree? And I was like, well, why don't we just stick it in the backstage? Because the guests through the gift shop will be able to see the, what I call the tanuki exhibit backstage. So, and we're gonna finish that in the next episode, the backstage and the gift shop. That will be next episode. But for this episode, all we have left is just the foliage work, which you can see me currently working on. And again, I wanted a tree in this back corner, and I think I end up adding a cypress tree. Is that what they're called? I think that's what they're called, or the cypress trees. Just a small one, nothing too big. Just something to give it a little bit of height in that corner because I felt like it looked a little weird. But overall, I am very happy with this build. I do know this was a bit of a shorter episode, but I am very happy with the details that I got put into this build. And a lot of the stuff that you like, a lot of the behind the scenes stuff will again be coming in next episode, because that's when we're gonna fully finish these exhibits, the backstage and the gift shop, and do the terrain work around, like frame the exhibits basically. So that's what's coming in the next episode. I hope to see y'all then. Also, I want to quickly give y'all a little update. I do not plan to have a video next week, simply because next week is Christmas and people are going to be traveling and spending time with their families. But it's also the holiday season. So whether you celebrate Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, any of the other holidays that we have during the December, January months, I hope each and every one of you have a great time celebrating the holiday that you celebrate. And I will see y'all in the next episode, which we should be back maybe not next week, but the week after next. So 2 weeks from now. Bye, guys.